A very good afternoon to everybody. I am Yash from IMAI, and welcome to our panel discussion on encouraging creativity with responsibility. We would like to begin by thanking all of you for being a part of the fifth editions of Pixels, digital entertainment reaching a new peak. We would also like to thank our title partner, Voot, our platinum partner, Amazon Prime Video, our CX partner, Zendesk, our content delivery partner, Limelight Networks, our gold partner, Lionsgate Play and Shimaru Entertainment. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Nitin Tej Ahuja, CEO, Producers Guild of India, who will be moderating today's discussion. Joining us today, we have a distinguished set of leaders. Dr. Ranjana Kumari, Director, Center for Social Research in Delhi and Chairperson of Women Power Connect. Ms. Suhasini Maniratnam, actress, director, producer, and writer, and National Film Award winner. And Professor Santosh Kumar Patra, Associate Professor and Area Leader, Media Entertainment Management, and Head, Center for Media and Entertainment, and Co-Chair, Fellow MICA. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Um, Over to you, Mr. Huja.
So can we start? Can we get started now? So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session of IAMI's Pixels Conference. The theme for our discussion this afternoon is encouraging creativity with responsibility. And we are very fortunate to have a very eminent and diverse panel to share their thoughts and insights on this. So let's get right into this. I would request anyone not speaking to put themselves on mute, otherwise it tends to echo. So let's get started. As they say, one man's art is another man's trash. Given the very subjective nature of content, how does one define what constitutes responsible content? So I would request Dr. Ranjana ji to get this discussion going on this theme.
Okay, I think it is well known that the norms, stereotypes, and attitudes we embrace in our daily life, we learn and gets reinforced by media. So that's something we should keep in mind. And as of today, as we know, that women make only 24% of the persons who are heard, read, or seen on media. So, and also, of course, only 4% of stories about women challenging gender stereotype really we see. So, I will really focus on responsible content in the context of gender. So it is extremely important that given all these facts, the onus lies on media channels to be mindful, especially creators, the creative side of the people, to create responsible content by ensuring gender sensitive and gender transformative shows, movies, advertisements, so as to lead to breaking stereotypes. That's very important, because then we are able to create reimagine a new culture in our society, because people would like to. And I want to give you a very good example, for example, from our own country, where Fair and Lovely, things like those, where people really reinforce this whole thing about beauty is about the color of the skin. And also another example which is very good, and how the whole culture of Brazil in terms of population change, where telenovelas, which started from 1964 to 85, at a time when government was very aggressively, very authoritarian, and they try to impose on people the regulations, the rules about small family norms, and it wasn't changing. But after looking at the way women were presented on these small programs and television serials, where women were smarter, had more time to do things, and they were really more forward looking, progressive women. That image was projected of the women who had very small family size. So, from 6.3% population growth to 2.3 children. I mean, really, it just went down, and that impact was created by the television serial, which became so popular. And I think that's where, and I know that OTT platforms are quite taking care of this, and they are trying to present the strong women image, or strong, and the image, breaking the stereotype of the gender. But at the same time, we have to be really very, very careful in terms of responsible, keeping in mind that it is going to impact the mindset, thinking, attitude, and behavior of our people. I mean, cinema and also serials and are not very divorced from the social reality, but they cannot reinforce and stereotype the social reality. They have to work creatively hard to be able to present a different picture. So that's responsible content creation, in my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjana. Suhasini ma'am, how would you define responsible creativity?
Um, I think a creative person is no different from any person who's sitting next to you when you're traveling by the train or by a bus or in the aeroplane or in a procession, political procession. So you don't expect him to be little more responsible than the other person because his upbringing is the same as the person who's traveling with him. Okay, so he's not like gone to an institute to learn about social responsibility. Okay, so you have to take him with a pinch of salt. So you don't expect him to know everything about social responsibility. His job, I'm not trying to defend him, but he's trying to create a story and to create life with his actors and his the house, the location, or the context and everything, and he's expecting other people to accept it and come forward and see it. So that is his first responsibility. Somewhere when he gets success, when he gets to communicate with the other people and the larger audience, when he's acceptable, is when the social responsibility comes in. Till then, he's worried only about himself. Having said that, he's not going to be doing pornography or too much of violence to attract people because that's not how he was brought up. So it depends on the environment that he's been in. There is a difference between a creative person and a classroom, because in a classroom, when you're dealing with the kindergarten kids as a teacher, I mean, I'm really comparing a filmmaker or a writer or a painter to a teacher, because you are trying to show something to a larger group of people from your life experience. So in a kindergarten level till fifth standard, they are fresh, they don't know anything about the world, so you're trying to tell them, from your point of view, what life is all about through stories and things like that. I mean, or through your lessons. So it's kind of, it's I'm not saying it's a condescending attitude, but you are treating them like they don't know anything, so you are teaching them. But when it comes to graduate level, you know that they know a lot, so you respect their knowledge and you're trying to teach them. But when it comes to PhD level, it's a chat, isn't it? It's chat between friends. It's not a professor and a student relationship. That is the kind of relationship that a creative person should have with his audience. Should treat him equal to him. He should not have a condescending attitude towards him or think that he's, like he has to educate him or he's lesser. But having said that, as a person, I don't want to be subjected to anything. So the same, I cannot subject the other person also to. If something is going to make me cringe and get upset, the same goes for my audience, the larger audience. So nobody can stuff something into my throat that I don't want to. The same thing I don't want to be the audience or whoever is listening to me to be suffocated by too. These are the things. But yes, when you become successful, it's not 10 people who are watching your work, it's 100 people and 1,000 people. You have to become somewhere responsible. If it doesn't come in, it's a sad case, is what I'm saying. But creative people cannot be preachers. There is a difference. We've been having preachers in our lives. They've been saying this is good, this is bad, this is in between, and this is how you go. I don't think it's made a change. I don't think it's made a change. So, expecting creative people to change people's lives or their or influence them, I think we're asking for too much. Is what I'm saying.
Thank you, ma'am. Professor Patra, your views?
Thank you. So I am very uncomfortable actually with all three words: value, freedom, and responsibility. Let me not be very politically correct over here. These three words always have been the reason for excuse for everybody. The excuse for individual, excuse for a market, and excuse for the nation to either continue, disrupt, or destroy the existing social order. I come from an institution, and we talk about media and entertainment management. However, the biggest question is what we want to continue, what we want to disrupt, and what we want to destroy. And who should decide this? Every stakeholder has their vested interest to define in one lens, and hence monopoly on decision making destroy the very idea of creativity for me. Media and entertainment or creative industry, irrespective of platform, is no exception. Just the degree varies from print to digital. The challenge always remains at the edge of creative freedom and responsibility and codifying for the standardized practice. I believe codifying a standardized practice is the biggest challenge for everybody. On the one hand, history is filled with examples of overt government censorship, and on the other, the commitment to freedom of imagination and expression. Most of the time, we listen to excuses. Many times, excuses are visible, or many times, the excuses are invisible. However, all excuses are guided by a very self centric interest, either that is political vested interest or economic vested interest. In both the sides, the creative freedom compromises. In either case, audience are at the center, and we make decision for them what they need to watch and what they need to consume. But it's continuity, disruption, and destruction. The socio-political and economic brokers, I would say, destroy the creative and consumer connect in the name of responsibility for a social order. And let me explain when I say that these are brokers. Believe me, these are all creative excuses by given by that somewhere this creative freedom may disrupt my political vote market or my consumer monetization market. So no single person is going to be blamed here. It is a vicious cycle. So some of my quick thoughts on this are the relationship of societal value and content should be like one is incomplete with the other. They should complement at the same time question each other, or else we live in a hegemony driven by conformist paradigm that all my co-panelists were talking about, endorsing stereotype or whatsoever. Artistic freedom and responsibility are both the margins. Most of the time, it is individuals accountability to societal implications. I would not go to historical examples like Paul Picasso's huge 1937 mural Guernica or Jackson Pollock's Blue Holes can be considered as the example to live with the margin. So towards that,
Your voice is breaking, Santosh.
Yes.
is it clear now?
Your
Is it
voice
clear?
is
Still
breaking.
breaking, yeah.
Still it is breaking? Is it clear somewhere? Because I tested the audio.
Better
Is
now.
it more clear like this? Is it
Now better.
clear?
Now better.
Yes.
Okay. So by coming to towards the end of my ideas, that theoretically existence of creative freedom can coexist with the idea of disruption or destruction of a defined social boundary. But practically, it raises many eyebrows because it certainly makes many uncomfortable. Hence, couple of minds, I see there is no quick fix solution for this, not in India, but across the world. Hence, I suggest all stakeholders should work towards a larger goal of, typically in the media studies, we talk about content consumption literacy and content creation literacy, with an immediate goal of that how content and consumer framework with the scope of continuity, disruption, and destruction of a conformist hegemony is the way forward. These are some of my preliminary thoughts. Rest, of course, we will have a discussion to talk about other issues.
Thank you, Professor. Which leads me to my next question. See, true creativity, whether in art forms or other walks of life, often involves pushing the boundaries of current thinking. And that can often be disconcerting or even scandalous at first. Galileo was sentenced to life imprisonment for daring to suggest that the sun revolved around the earth instead of the other way around. So if we expect creators to be responsible, are we maybe discouraging them from expanding the boundaries of what we think is possible? So Vasima, maybe you can get this started.
You can just request them to be responsible. You cannot, like
Create a law.
as a rule, be responsible. Then they're definitely going to break the rule and go away. See, a creative person is only interested in his content. If his content will allow him to cross the boundaries and the barriers, he's definitely going to cross it, how much ever you tell him. But if it's within the social responsibility circle, then it's not an issue for you. But so when is he going to cross and think of something extraordinary? Somebody who's capable of thinking something extraordinary is not going to be scared of being socially responsible, because he's fearless, because he's exploring into other territories that others have not explored into. So he will have the intelligence and obviously the intellectual capability also to how to kind of sugarcoat it without letting some of us interfere and say, this is against the grain or whatever. So I kind of respect the intelligence of the creative people. But it is the so-called the mainstream which is popular and trying to be popular. See, I come from a family of lawyers, and from there we all became actors and filmmakers. So it was very difficult for me to go and be in the film industry where you have to be in the rat race. Like, I was not. I mean, I'm just taking this very personally because I couldn't do any role which was not what I can't see around myself. So, but when you act in a film, it's completely different, because they're only looking at populism and popularity, and they have their own set of rules. So there are the set of people, 50% from the film industry or from the television industry have this formula, and they think they know everything, and they try to pull people like us who don't want to move into the mold also and try to. So it is up to me to decide whether I want to jump into the pool or stay aside and try to, make them swim along with me. So it is tough. I mean, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like, to survive, they have to be in the rat race. That is what they believe in. So at that point, it becomes difficult. They don't care about social responsibility. The misogyny sells. Because I've told Ms. Ranjana earlier in one of our meetings, I like to say it again. It was a story of two people who run away from home, the boy and a girl, without their parents' knowledge. Because if they get married, the parents will finish them off, because it's, honor killing kind of a situation where 4 friends help them to elope and get married. Okay. But what happens is they go and live together for about six months. And when these 4 guys who have helped them, one has lost his ear, the other one cannot walk anymore, the other one has lost his spouse, the other one has lost his family. They've lost so many things just for these 2 people to get married and be happy. But after 6 months, they come back and say, we are unhappy, so we want to separate. So there is a scene of all these 4 people taking out their frustration on these two couple and this couple. So they slap the guy, and it's okay. The theater was fine. But when they slapped the girl, the whole theater celebrated. It was not even the intention of the director to show that, you slap a girl. It's fantastic. All husbands have been, wanting to do this, but one man does it and they're all celebrating. It was not his intention at all. But it is what the audience understood from that scene. So where is social responsibility there? You tell me. I asked the director, he said, for me, both of them were equal. They were like people who were selfish and, who used the other 4. So both of them need to be punished. Why shouldn't the girl be punished just because she's a female? She also needs to be punished. I mean, as far as the story goes. But the reaction from the theater when I went there I was aghast. All the males clapped when the girl was. So these are the social responsibility that we have to learn from the audience reaction. I'm sure the director will never write a scene like that again.
Thank you. Professor Patra, what do you think? Can an emphasis on responsibility stifle creative thinking?
First of all, so I'm quite agreeing that what Suhasini has just mentioned. But on one side there is a rat race. You are agreeing, but another side we cannot discount there is a compulsion. Like the movie, I will give the example of like the recently Jai Bhim. When the movie is happening, and in other side there is a social media trend that it is questioning the system. So who should define the boundaries of responsibility? In one side, we are talking, yes, I'm so there is a rat race that somebody is enjoying this misogynic content and the audience is celebrating and people are making that we have been listening. But other side also that your creative freedom of either disrupting or destroying is bringing you that I am afraid, can I make this content out? I'm not talking about only in movies, any content, be it a tweet or be it creating a caricature or anything. So where to who should draw the boundary, whether the economy of boardrooms or the politics of political parties in the other side of the table? So that's where I have my problem and doubt. That's where we need to create that edge of that center. We are creating everything for the audience, for the consumers. Whether the consumer has the right to decide at the realm of, like the article 19 we talk about right to freedom and expression, however 5 clauses are there. And this is where I believe when audience centricity is going to take over, both the margins can come to in the right framework. But still, as I said, it's not a quick fixing things. It has taken almost 100 years to reach at this point, but it will take I don't know how many years to fix both the boundaries at the same time.
Dr. Ranjana, your thoughts on this question?
Well, I think it's very important to see, like when you started your statement and when Suhasini is seeing creator, then the expression is his. You started with him, and of course, for her, creator is him, his. So I think the whole stereotype starts emerging from here. The way we look at the creator, but the creator is someone who is, whose imagination has no limits, right? But social responsibility is a limit. You have to draw a line. But when you are creating something, perhaps you don't want to draw a line, or you don't. If you start drawing the line, then you will not be the creator. Fine. And it could be a woman or a man or anybody, a creator. So I would think that looking at the way, fortunately for us, OTT platforms are more inclusive medium. And we have seen many more storytelling and actors exploring their creative freedom in terms of presenting or breaking the stereotype, the way gender stereotype is established by the creators by and large. But when you look at the film, and they have done much, OTT platform has done much more than what films have done in past 5 years. Films took a lot of time, because film starts catering to, as Suhasini very rightly said, is this whole social mindset that we are all. So they fix everything that they want to create within those boundaries. They want to see what people like. They want to reinforce the same kind of ideas repeatedly every time. We had a time when we had this whole angry young man as the protagonist of any cinema, beating people. Then we got we never saw an angry young woman in a cinema, where she really kind of got agitated, as Suhasini said about that in the hall everybody clapped because a woman was slapped for making that mistake of running away with the boy who parents didn't want her to get married to. So I think it's something which is, and she was punished adequately. Like everybody said, oh right, this was the right punishment. So I would think that creation itself is a responsible act. If you're not responsible, then you will not get that kind of appreciation. You may become run of the mill kind of a creator, who may succeed in terms of films after films or serial after serial, but who will not really be remembered for what that creation was. But the people who will do responsible creation, who are going to set a trend, will break the boundaries, and that creation then makes history. That creation makes people to remember what that creation. It could be anything. It could be any art form. It could be artist brush, or it could be a cinema's camera, whatever. So I would think that creativity itself is a very responsible act, and it has no boundaries. But then you cannot, if you cross the social boundary, then you run the risk. You run the risk of not getting acceptable. And fortunately nowadays, even when we see that viewers, 70% users of all these platforms are men, and women are only 30% who are using these OTT platforms or net based all kinds of activities, still the appreciation is growing for creativity towards breaking all the stereotypical images of women in the cinema, in the all kinds of presentation that is happening. People are appreciating that more, and also women in the country are identifying with those characters. They are identifying with those, and that is why you will see viewership for those becomes much better. So let me just summarize this, saying that creation is an act of disruption. According to Dr. Patra's work, it is disruption. If you're creating something, you are, and if you're not doing something which is really breaking the social boundary, then you are certainly creating an alternative way of looking and visualizing things. Then you are really not making history, or you're not making something which will be remembered for what you have produced. So, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
May I just add, Nitinji, what Dr. Ranjana just said, maybe a quick 30-second thing. She's so right that in OTT space, in digital space, it started by questioning the boundaries, unlike movies. We didn't have a censor board over there. So appreciation, growth, and all that, given the creative freedom, what we say in its art form, happened. But in quick 4 years, what we have seen, the growth of insecurities from every form, insecurity from in the boardrooms, that see some of the OTT series, whether if you are using these kind of slangs, you get these kind of consumers, and or if you use sex, you are getting this kind of viewership. In other side of this political boardrooms, that no, this is not acceptable as per our societal values. Who will define the societal values? In the political boardrooms or in the industries boardrooms? So that's where we are here in after 5 years, that we are thinking about creating a censor board for digital content as well. So this is the dilemma. This is the challenge, to work in the frame or make people uncomfortable. Making people uncomfortable certainly compromises my freedom. But believe me, I believe that if you are not making people uncomfortable, your creative freedom is not at its best. It is you are carrying a conformist paradigm, just carrying through because people are loving. As Suhasin just said, that they will clap, they will celebrate, because that has been being the socialization process for all of us.
But taking off from what you said, Professor, of course, content can sometimes be salacious, scandalous, unsavory, but then so is reality itself. For proof, just put on television news, especially some of the Hindi channels, and you will see what reality is projected as. So, if you say that creators are supposed to be responsible and therefore not show the unseemly facet of life, does that make content itself diverse from the reality? So Vasiji, maybe you can shed some light on this.
See, a writer can write a scene because it's kind of reflecting reality, but when he's actually enacting it with actors, if there is a discomfort from the actors itself, he knows that he's crossing the social responsibility barrier. You know what I mean? Because the people who are acting there represent society. They are not from Mars. They are not from Venus. Just because they are actors or cinematographers or editors. So from my experience, that's what I feel. So what we do is, in our production, even the males, for example, two top heroes refused to do some intimate scenes because they were not comfortable with it. So my husband would say, "Oh my God, he's a man, but he doesn't want to do these scenes." Okay, when it's a girl, the concern is little more, because she's embarrassed to do the scene and things like that. There are even older people who are embarrassed to do certain scenes. Like yesterday, my father, who's 91 years old, went to a television shoot. It was supposed to be a wedding anniversary. He had a dialogue where the director said that, "I'm very happy to be here, but I don't want to eat. So let me go home." He said, "I will never say that when I go to a place." You know what I mean?
Right.
When you go to an occasion, you'll never say, "I don't want to eat," because I think they didn't want to show him eating because it would take some time, and in COVID time, they don't want to do that shot. So even older people feel uncomfortable when you're crossing. A 91-year-old man is not going to be arrogant and say, "I don't want to eat here." You know what I mean? I mean, that is also social responsibility, according to me. It's not just gender-based or anything like that, That's what I feel. So I think, but I just wanted to add something to what Ranjana ji said about OTT being like a liberation for creative people. It's true. Yesterday we were discussing, and my husband was saying we are doing something for OTT. He says, like, this is opening up for us to think differently. We don't have to think about stars and things like that. But from a gender point of view, that's what we thought about television also. Because I've produced a lot in television where the content was decided by me, the cast and everything was decided by me. The audience who watch are also women, actually. So what women want to consume might not be socially responsible too. No, women are not the best human beings compared to men. It's not so, so they want, like, for example, day before yesterday, my sister who's trying to learn Hindi was watching a Hindi serial. So the scene was the mother-in-law to be is teaching the daughter-in-law to make jalebis. She says, if you want to win people over in this house, you have to learn how to make jalebis. The whole episode was about teaching the girl. There's no, that the boy was not involved in the jalebi making and winning over people at all. So we are regressive. To me, it was like, it's so irresponsible. Even a lovemaking scene which is erotic is not going to disturb me as much as deciding that a woman in central India can be a good wife only if she can make hot jalebis. So that's what I'm saying. Being in the industry, I thought uh, women will get liberated with television because, I mean, to be frank, if there is an actor who's my age group and my success in cinema comes to television, I will earn more than him. My salary will be more. That doesn't mean the respect that I get from television is more than a man. It's not so. Because I've seen from my own experience, when I do different content, there is pressure from the channel to say, "Well, let's do mother-daughter story, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law story. Let's not do a lawyer who's investigating cases, because our audience are all women. They don't want to see cases. They want to only watch something that is to do with marital." So I am little worried. The same thing should not happen in OTT platforms also. OTT platforms should not exploit the fact that women can be liberated in terms of the close scenes and skin showing and all that, because there is no control there. So as a woman from this country where there are so many things that are oppressive, including the ogling of people, I mean, I want to tell you, there is this niece of mine who came from UK and settled here, married a Gujarati, and I asked her, like, how is life different? You're in Bombay. So she says people ogle. In this culture, people ogle, so that ogling is there, whether you're, the camera is, I mean, compare the camera to an ordinary Indian man's eyes. So whether it's a movie camera or a television camera or an OTT camera, it's the same ogling eye. So if the ogling eye is going to be fed through any media, I am worried. I am worried. That's a great social responsibility that all three mediums should at least be aware of. I know I'm being emotional, sorry.
I mean, it's.
Dr. Ranjana, your thoughts on
No, I think, yeah, I
reality
agree.
and
Yeah, I agree with Swasni that while it is true that entertainment avenues hold a mirror to the prevailing realities, however, these should not be the highlight every time of the story. And let's not assume that people want to view only this. We have a whole new generation of women now. We have no nonsense generation of women and young girls. They are being bred and fed and seeing global realities. They're not only, I mean, even, of course, I'm very Indian as much as any other Indian be, but I know that my next generation is totally exposed to through OTT platform, through so many other social media platforms. So I would think that the currently the physical, sexual, and emotional abuse of women and children in a conventional backstory that has a character and has to go through to be able to typecast the story, give weight. So I think I would think that give weight to the character in which is not just a formula. It's a formula these days, where everybody wants to present the same thing. But the people who break, you can see from past few cinemas, even people like Toilet Prem Katha. I mean, like, who would have ever imagined that something like that will be title of a movie in our Indian context? But certainly, it made a lot of sense to a lot of people, and also our audience is growing from urban middle class to poor to the Jai Bhim, success of Jai Bhim, for example. With a very different audience, which is looking at it, questioning it, appreciating it, becoming part of it. So I would think that kind of a challenge, of course it is a challenge, of course it is, when you are a creator who wants to be different, who wants to really break free from all this stereotyping, then you certainly are taking also serious risk. You are taking a risk, but that risk is creation. For me, that is the creation, that you present something which is totally challenging your, shaking you up, challenging your consciousness, and saying, hey, what are you looking at a woman as someone who's in the kitchen making jalebi? No, this woman is a police officer who is, made the biggest arrest of the time, and she has gone and broken the biggest terrorist group, or whatever. I mean, I think it's something where you want to show and present this very strong, smart, very, very intelligent person who's a woman. I mean, like, this person doesn't have to be every time a man who's doing all these things. So I think that's something very important. So I would say that media industry needs to be encouraged to produce gender transformative content. It needs to be encouraged within content, and to develop self-regulatory policies so that it doesn't cross the social boundary.
No, I don't think any any creative, half-sane creator will have any issues with the notion that creators need to be responsible. But I guess the issue really is that content is such a fluid, creativity is such a fluid concept, and so is responsibility, I guess. So, Professor Patra, like, how do we actually codify what constitutes responsible content? Any thoughts on that? And who codifies it?
Yeah, so codifying, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a challenge. But before that, also, what both my panelists were suggesting, this is reminding one of my most respected book, so my experiment with truth, that reality is shades of truth. Reality is not the truth, right? And then whatever so we talk about which form of reality, it represents a shade of truth, but creativity brings truth with imagination. So so what we say, mixture of reality and imagination, we create a product. That product which is going to the consumers or audience and then being consumed by millions. But here the boundaries lie in coming, because my reality is a threat, or maybe making you uncomfortable because your reality is different in that context. To codify all of this, of course, it is one of the biggest challenge across the world in the content industry. Everybody is dealing with. However, when we bring consumer, as I said, talk about audience and consumer centricity to a acceptable practices and norm, so it brings creates a certain kind of very dotted line of creativity with responsibility. So, a couple of examples like Mirzapur or the Patal Lok of India, or that some of the Korean content which is being so well marketed and in Indian content, how they create the balance of two. So where the fine boundary need to be created. So in one side, Crash Landing on Me, or I'm forgetting that name of the Korean series, and at the other hand, there is Patal Lok. So here we are talking about a reality. In other side, there is talking about imagination. Both of them were appreciated by the consumers, and both of both of them created wonders in Indian market. So this is where I always believe, and then of course all my students would always argue over this, that this dotted line has been always a challenge, be it Western media watchdogs or Indian media watchdogs. But it should be fluid, it should be contextual, and at the same time, it should give aids to the creative expressions while meeting the industry's boardroom and political boardroom in a context. Or else there is not, it is not a rocket science to say that this is black and white. You close it here, their responsibility starts. It's impossible. That's where I always believe creative expression goes with uncomfortable situation to many stakeholders.
Thank you, Professor. So, Asni, is it possible to set a set of guidelines, and who sets it, to say, okay, this is responsible content and this is not?
Anyway, I don't know how I'm going to answer this question, but I just wanted to add something to Professor, what he said. I think what he says is the umpire, when in doubt, he always gives the benefit of doubt to the batsman. So he's calling the creative people batsmen, So that's what I understand. Am I right?
Yes, to certain extent, X, yes, but at the same time, I am also bringing both the sides together, the business and the political watchdog together, so that all three stakeholders need to codify something. It's not creative over others or over all the stakeholders over creativity. All three together can create certain dotted lines for some kind of watchdogs.
Yeah, right. It's tough. You see, if I'm staging a play called Antaram or Sangamam, I don't have to get police permission to do it. Really, the police. I just have to give a letter and do it. That's all. But if I'm doing vagina monologues, the police people are there to stop my play. That's the kind of censorship which is not allowed. When you don't even know what the content is, you cannot judge a book by the cover and say that this is not done. But we have those kind of vigilantes now. So I don't know. I don't know if what I said. So who sets the rules? Who sets the rules?
Yeah.
It's tough. It is tough.
Are there any thoughts on how
Yes,
this can
I
be
think,
controlled?
it's important to have the combination of the two. That is, we can start from the national media policies. I think we do need them because now it's becoming very open and very, kind of just free for all kind of, we should not leave it to that. And also because we do have a responsibility as a nation, as a state, nation state. The other thing is that also media industry self-regulation, which I want to start from the producers, because producers who should lead the way, I think, towards gender equality or socially responsible content, given its impacts that they understand on attitudes and perceptions. So it's important to start from the side of the producers themselves. When they're investing money in it and they want to produce good content, then they should be very mindful of what they're producing. That's very important. Actor will act whatever is given to the actor to best of his or her ability, and also the all the other players will play their role with most efficient, whatever they can do the best. But important is that when you are really getting into something and wanting to produce a content, whether on any platform, then you have to be very, very responsible. And there is absolutely no shortcut to, I'm against any kind of regulation or banning something or stopping something. You cannot do that. But there has to be broad framework of which we do have to some extent, but needs to be streamlined. That is the national media policy, and also, of course, media industry self-regulation, which is extremely important.
I
I
believe
just want to add one more thing, which we've been saying in our panel too. Now, OTT platforms have a lot of power because they have to see the script, they have to approve of it, and they have a script committee which tells them changes which never happened in television, not in cinema. Okay, it was one producer who will say, I don't like this scene, but it was not really a script writers as such. But they hire, people who are script consultants who tell us that this scene is not right, but they're looking at it only from the legal point of view. So if they can be a little more responsible, like what you're saying, if they can have a panel which looks at social responsibility and at least like kind of warn the writers when they are writing, instead of after they finish the project and bring it, and then somebody raises an objection, and then we all have to look into it, and there is a committee that is looking into it. I think it can be done in the beginning, but I don't think if the legalities can be if they want to cover their backs, because legally, if that is what they want to do, they should be morally obliged to do this also, at least as a suggestion. Then he'll think twice before going ahead with the thought, which will make the society or the people who are watching it uncomfortable.
I think we've already run out of time, and I can see Yash staring at us. So thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful, very insightful discussion, and thank you, IAMAI, for this opportunity.
there are a
Thank
couple of
you.
questions, I believe, Nitinji, that if we
Right.
have a couple of minutes can be addressed. I can see in chat. Or yes, if you have any suggestion, maybe.
Maybe we can email them back to them in case we can. I'm
I saw
just,
the question. I thought we had run out of time.
yeah, I think
I
I can.
think we are out of time, but I think we have just one question about ad films here.
Yeah.
So if you guys would like to address that, I think we can manage that.
I think, do you consider, can you read the question, Nitin?
There was one about wanting to create
Tata's
something.
ad or something. Yeah.
Where's that? I didn't see the Tata question.
Oh, maybe from
Yeah.
the previous one.
Talking with respect to ad films, how do we ensure that creativity does not get diluted in the process or not?
We have answered it.
Yeah. I think there's so many questions written from other forums too, so difficult to sift through them. Yes, I guess that's pretty much it then.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Hoda.
Nitin.
Thank you to all the speakers. Thanks for the very enlightening discussion. And thanks to all our panelists and our moderator for being here today and making this possible. And of course, to our attendees and sponsors. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.